Hiro felt shame burn inside him, not because he was weak, but because he had once believed he couldn't be. Musashi rose slowly, his expression carved from stone. "A cracked wrist can heal," he said. "A cracked ego must be shattered." He turned away, footsteps hard against the ground. The question now, Hiro, is whether you will rise with humility or fall with pride." Hiro stared at his swollen wrist, feeling the pain pulse like a second heartbeat. And for the first time since his training began, he feared not the mountain, not failure, but himself. The pain throbbed with every step as he followed Musashi. The boy's chest tightened with embarrassment. Just days ago, he feared the world. Now he feared the arrogance quietly rising inside him. They reached a quiet ledge where the valley opened wide, ancient and indifferent. Musashi sat on a stone and motioned for Hiro to sit in front of him. "Show me your wrist." Hiro extended his arm. The master examined it, then tore a strip from his own robe, wrapping it tightly. "It is not broken," Musashi said, "but it is cracked, and so is something within you." If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share so I can keep bringing you great content. Hiro lowered his eyes. "I thought I was getting stronger." "You were," Musashi answered. "But strength without humility is like a sword without a sheath. It cuts the one who carries it." The truth stung. "Ego is silent at first," Musashi continued. "It grows in small victories, in compliments you replay too much, in the feeling of being ahead, in the illusion that you are done learning." He looked at Hiro. "Then it becomes a storm." Hiro swallowed. "That feeling, I had it this morning." "I know," Musashi said. "I saw it in your posture, in your eyes, in the way you exhaled, as if mastery belonged to you." A cold wind swept across the ledge. "Master, why do men fall into ego so easily?" Musashi's voice deepened. "Because ego offers what discipline never does: power without patience, progress without practice, confidence without truth." He pointed at Hiro's chest. "A man would rather feel strong than become strong." Hiro's throat tightened. "Is ego always bad?" "Oh, no," Musashi said. "The ego is a horse. The warrior is the rider. If you control it, it becomes speed. If it controls you, it becomes chaos." Musashi suddenly stood and handed Hiro a wooden cup full of water. "Hold this. Do not spill a drop." Hiro obeyed. Musashi began circling. His footsteps vibrated the ground. His presence pressed like tightening wind. The water trembled. Shh. Hiro's heart raced. Musashi shouted suddenly, "Do not spill it." Shh. The knife splashed over the rim. Musashi stopped. "Where did you spill it?" I got startled." "You know," the master said firmly. "You spilled it because your mind was on me, not on the cup." Ego watches the world. Presence watches itself. Hiro stared at the remaining water. Musashi sat in front of him. "You lost not because you are weak, but because you wanted to impress me. That desire, that hunger to be seen, is the root of ego." Hiro felt the truth land deep. Then how do I kill my ego?" Musashi's gaze hardened. "You don't kill it, you kneel before the truth." He touched Hiro's injured wrist. "This pain is truth. This humility is truth. This failure is truth." The master placed a hand on Hiro's shoulder. "When a man stops pretending to be strong, that is when he can finally become strong." Something inside Hiro collapsed gently. Not defeat, not weakness, but surrender to honesty. Musashi said, turning toward the forest. "Your next lesson awaits, the lesson of presence, without which discipline is blind." Hiro rose, wrist aching, ego humbled, heart open. Together they walked toward the bamboo forest where silence sharpens the spirit. Night fell over the mountain like a thick black curtain. Inside the training yard, a single torch burned, steady, defiant. Takeshi stood before it, breath-heavy, spirit trembling. Master Ishida approached with a wooden box wrapped in faded red cloth. He set it down. "This is the test Musashi feared only once," the elder said. Not because it was dangerous, but because it required absolute honesty. Takeshi's stomach tightened. Honesty with others was simple. Honesty with oneself was war. "A fire can destroy you," Ishida said. "But true danger lies in the fires inside your mind. Anger, regret, insecurity, ego." He opened the box. Inside lay a smooth, black stone. "This cage Ishi has survived centuries of storms. Your task is simple. Hold it. Sit in silence. Let every burning thought rise." Takeshi hesitated. "A master? What if the fire becomes too much?" "Then let it burn," Ishida said. "A man becomes unbreakable not by avoiding the fire, but by walking through it without losing himself." Takeshi lifted the stone. It felt warm, alive. When he closed his eyes, memories surged. Failures he hid, fears he ignored, wounds he buried. The inner fire rose a fast, overwhelming. But he did not run, did not fight. He simply stayed, breathing through the heat, witnessing the flames without becoming them. And in that stillness, he understood. Strength is not the absence of inner fire. Strength is the mastery of it. This was the beginning of the most dangerous training, not against the world, but against his own spirit. The bamboo forest grew denser, turning the world into a cathedral of green columns. Wind whispered through the leaves like distant prayers. Master Ida stopped. Listen. Takeshi closed his eyes. First he heard wind, then layers beneath it. Wing beats dripping water, his own heartbeat echoing softly. It's so much, he whispered. It always was, Ishida said. A presence doesn't increase sound. It quiets your mind enough to finally hear it. Ishida walked again. His steps became silent, weightless. Takeshi tried to mimic him but stepped on twigs, kicked stones. Can't move like you. You try to move perfectly, Ishida said. A presence is not perfection. Presence is awareness. Takeshi slowed his breath. He placed his foot not on the ground, but into the moment. Just once, he moved without sound. I did it, he whispered. You allowed it, Ishida said. Night descended over the mountain like a black curtain, thick, silent, absolute. But inside the courtyard, one torch burned steady, its flame refusing to bow even as the wind clawed at it. Takeshi stood before it, chest heaving, body worn, spirit trembling like a stretched bowstring. Master Ishida approached slowly, carrying a small wooden box wrapped in faded red cloth. He placed it at Takeshi's feet with a quiet finality. This, Ishida said, is the test even Musashi feared once. Not because it threatened his life, but because it demanded absolute honesty. Takeshi's throat tightened. Honesty with the world was simple. Honesty with oneself was war. Ishida gestured to the flickering flame. A fire destroys flesh, he said, but a greater danger lives here. He tapped his own chest. The fires of regret, anger, insecurity, ego. He opened the red cloth. Inside lay a single stone, smooth, black, ancient. Aikageshi, Ishida said, a shadow stone. It has survived storms, heat, conflict. Every test time can create. He lifted it from the box and placed it gently into Takeshi's hands. You will hold it, Ishida said. Ice it, and allow everything burning inside you to rise. Takeshi swallowed. A master. What if the fire becomes too much? Ishida smiled, a thin, knowing smile, but then let it burn. A man becomes unbreakable, not when he avoids the fire, but when he walks through it without losing himself. Takeshi closed his fingers around the stone. It was warm, almost breathing. When he closed his eyes, memories surged instantly. His failures, his hidden fears, the pain he buried, the doubts he denied, the wounds he pretended had healed. The flames inside him rose, fast, violent, overwhelming. But this time, he didn't run, he didn't fight. He simply stayed, breathing through the heat, witnessing the fire without becoming it. His chest tightened, his pulse hammered, his thoughts screeched like metal. But beneath the chaos, something deeper stirred, a strange stillness, a quiet watching. A warrior observing the blaze without letting it define him. And in that moment of surrender, Takeshi understood. Strength isn't the absence of inner fire. Strength is the mastery of it. The torch flickered beside him as the night deepened. Its flame looked brighter somehow, no longer a threat but a reflection. And so began the most dangerous training of his life. Not against enemies, not against nature, but against the inferno of his own spirit. The next morning, the world felt different. The bamboo forest welcomed them with towering pillars of green rising into the sky, like a cathedral built by ancient monks. The wind whispered through the leaves, soft prayers, distant memories. As Takeshi walked behind Master Ishida, he felt every step carry him away from the boy he used to be, and closer to a truth waiting in the quiet. Ishida stopped suddenly. Listen, he said. Takeshi closed his eyes. At first he heard only wind. Then the layers unfolded. A bird's wings flapping far above. A single drop of water falling from a stone. His heartbeat moving quietly through his ribs. It's overwhelming, he whispered. It always was, Ishida replied. Presence doesn't increase the world's sound. It silences your mind enough to finally hear it. As they walked again, Ishida's steps transformed, silent, graceful, almost floating. Takeshi tried to imitate him, but every footstep betrayed him. A snapped twig, a kicked stone, a brush against thick grass. Frustration flared in Takeshi's chest. A master, I can't move like you. Ishida didn't stop walking. You were trying to be perfect, he said. A presence is not perfection. presence is awareness. Takeshi inhaled as slowed. He placed his foot not on the ground, but into the moment. He felt the soil's texture, the shift of weight, the line of his spine, and for one breath, only one, he moved without a sound. His eyes widened. I did it. You didn't force it, Ishida said. You allowed it. They reached a clearing where sunlight sliced through the bamboo canopy in thin golden beams. Ishida motioned for him to stand in the center. Bring your mind home. Takeshi closed his eyes. This time, thoughts didn't drag him. Memories didn't sting. Fear whispered but didn't command. He simply stood, rooted like a mountain, calm as a lake, awake as fire. His breath deepened, colors sharpened. The forest pulse matched the rhythm inside his chest. In that stillness, something bloomed. Not pride, not strength, alignment. He opened his eyes and the world looked shockingly clear. Not metaphorically, physically. Colors deeper, edges sharper, movement slower. A master, Takeshi whispered. What is this? Ishida's voice softened. The beginning, he said, of the silent level. Takeshi felt emotion tremble behind his ribs. He remembered his old life. Noise, rushing insecurity, the constant hunger to be seen. That boy felt gone. Presence was the true armor. Presence was the true weapon. Presence was the true spirit of a warrior. Ishida turned toward the deeper forest path. Where are we going? Takeshi asked softly. To the chamber, the master replied. The place where presence becomes unshakable. And Takeshi followed, calm, grounded, ready. The mountain night wrapped itself around Hiro like a vast, breathing shadow. The torch in the courtyard hissed softly, its flame steady despite the cold wind pressing against it. Hiro stood before it, wrist aching beneath Musashi's cloth binding, feeling as if the fire inside him had grown louder than the one before his eyes. Master Ishida entered with slow, deliberate steps, carrying a wooden box wrapped in red cloth, faded from age. He placed it gently at Hiro's feet. The moment waited with the quiet gravity of something sacred. This test, he said, is the one Musashi feared only once. Not because it was dangerous, but because it demanded complete honesty. Hiro felt a chill crawl across his shoulders. Honesty with others was simple. Honesty with himself was war. Ishida nodded toward the flame. A fire destroys what it touches, he said. But the fire inside you destroys from within. Anger, regret, insecurity, ego. Tonight, you face that fire. He opened the wooden box. Inside laid a small black stone, smooth, ancient, absorbing the torchlight like a piece of night itself. This is a shadow stone, Ishida said. It has survived storms, heat, conflict. Hold it, sit with it, and let every burning thought within you rise. Hiro hesitated only for a breath before taking the stone. It felt warm, alive, almost. As he closed his eyes, the world he had tried to suppress flooded in. The sting of failing Musashi's lesson, the shame of his cracked ego, the disappointment in his own heartbeat. He sat before the torch, the shadows dancing across his face. Within moments, the heat inside his mind built, fast, ruthless, scorching. His breath trembled. His pulse throbbed in his wrist. His thoughts spun into chaos. But he didn't run, didn't fight, didn't flinch. He simply sat with the fire. And slowly, the heat stopped feeling like destruction. It felt like purification. A stripping away of illusions he hadn't realized he wore. Strength that wasn't strength. Confidence that was ego's disguise. Progress built on the desire to be seen. Ishida watched from the darkness, his expression unreadable. Only when Hiro's trembling stilled did he speak. A warrior's strength, Ishida said, is not the absence of burning thoughts. It is the mastery of them. And Nero opened his eyes. The torch seemed brighter now, steadier, as if reflecting the shift inside him. His journey continued the next morning, deep into the bamboo forest. The world changed there. Light fell differently. The wind moved differently. The silence breathed differently. The forest felt like a temple carved by nature itself. Master Ishida stopped and whispered, "Listen." Hiro closed his eyes. At first, only wind. Then, layers unfolding, dripping water, distant wings, insects stirring beneath leaves, the slow pulse behind his ribs. "It's overwhelming," Hiro murmured. "It always has been," Ishida replied. "Presence does not make the world louder. It makes you quiet enough to hear it." They walked deeper. Ishida's steps turned silent, graceful, like moving through water. Hiro tried to mimic him but snapped twigs, kicked stones, brushed tall grass. Frustration curled inside him. "I can't move like you." "You are trying to be perfect," Ishida said. "But presence is not perfection. Presence is awareness." Hiro inhaled slowly, grounded his stance, felt the soil beneath him rather than stepping on it. And for one breath, one brief moment, he moved without sound. His eyes widened. Did it? You didn't force it, Ishida said. You allowed it. They entered a clearing where sunlight pierced the canopy in thin golden beams. Ishida motioned for Hiro to stand in the center. Bring your mind home. Hiro closed his eyes. This time, thoughts drifted like passing birds. Regrets didn't sting. Fears whispered, but no longer commanded. The ego inside him, once loud, now spoke as a fading echo. He breathed, and the forest breathed back. The world grew sharper around him, not emotionally, not philosophically, but literally. Colors deepened, sounds softened, movements slowed, presence became a living force. A master, he whispered, what is this feeling? What is this feeling? At the beginning of the silent level, the word struck him with quiet force. This wasn't strength built on power. It was born from alignment. He remembered his old life, noise, rushing, needing approval. It felt distant, almost unreal. Presence was armor. Presence was a blade. Presence was a spirit. Ishida began walking again. We go to the final chamber, he said, where presence becomes unshakable. Hiro followed him up the ridge. The world grew colder, sharper, more still. Fog wrapped around the cliffs like drifting spirits. The air carried a deep hush, as if the mountain itself watched them. They reached a stone circle embedded in the ridge. Ordinary at first glance, but Hiro felt its weight, its history, its test. Stand, Ishida said. Remain unmoved. That's all. The master's gaze thinned. But when chaos arrives, you will learn that all is never small. Hiro stepped onto the stone. The wind hissed. Fog reached his knees. Beneath him, the mountain groaned with shifting weight. Close your eyes, he obeyed. The world stirred. Wind hardened. Gravel shifted. Branches cracked. Distant stones tumbled. The mountain awakened like a restless beast. The master, Hiro whispered, something is happening. A chaos always comes to test silence. A gust slammed into him. Instinct begged him to move, but he remained. His breath shook but didn't break. Ishida's voice drifted through the fog. A warrior does not control the storm. He controls the space within the storm. The wind grew violent. Fog whipped around him. The mountain roared. His heartbeat surged. Doubt clawed at him. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if silence isn't enough? He inhaled, exhaled, rooted deep. Amid the storm, he found something beneath everything. His breath, steady and loyal. His stance, anchored. His presence, unbroken. And faintly, far away but familiar. Ishida's calm breath guiding without protecting. Hiro straightened. When the next gust hit, he didn't flinch. The world raged around him but could not enter him. Something shifted inside, a settling like a stone resting at the bottom of a river. Silence spread through his chest like warm light. He felt the storm shrink. He felt himself expand. Ishida stepped through the fog, pride hidden behind restraint. You are ready. Hiro opened his eyes. The fog cleared just enough to reveal his master, solemn, proud, and nearing farewell. Hiro stepped off the stone, changed in a way words could not contain. Presence clung to him like invisible armor. There was more to come, another threshold to cross, another truth waiting. But silence now lived in him, not as absence but as strength. He was no longer the boy who chased approval. He was the warrior who carried stillness. And the world, no matter how loud, would never shake him again. Fog drifted over the ridge like pale smoke as Takeshi and Master Ishida descended into the ravine's shadow. The air cooled sharply, carrying the scent of wet stone and cedar roots. Takeshi walked with a silence that was no longer forced. A silence that lived inside him now. His mind did not scatter. His breath did not race. The world roared around him, but no longer within him. When they reached the ancient cedar at the ravine's base, Ishida stopped. The tree rose like a pillar of time itself, its bark scarred with sword marks carved by generations of warriors. Takeshi ran his fingers across the cuts. Each groove felt like a story, each line a confession. A master, Takeshi asked softly, are these from battles? Ishida shook his head. No battle. No enemy. These marks were carved by men who finally understood their greatest opponent was their own mind. He placed a palm on the trunk. When I finished my training, I came here too. I carved not my strength into this tree, but the piece of myself I had to let go. Takeshi breathed slowly. He could almost feel the presence of every warrior before him, lingering in the cold wood. As they walked deeper into the ravine, the wind thinly hissed between the rocks. Takeshi noticed it, not as a threat, not as a distraction, but simply as movement, nothing more. Ishida turned toward him. Takeshi, he said gently, you must understand something before you leave this mountain. They arrived at the overlook, the same place Ishida himself once stood as a young disciple. Below them, the valley stretched wide, forest breathing, rivers bending in silver coils, clouds hovering close enough to touch. "This," Ishida whispered, "is the world you will return to." Takeshi stared into the vastness. He could almost feel the lives below, rushing, colliding, drowning in noise. Ishida continued, "The world is full of men who speak before thinking, who react before understanding, who answer before listening. They mistake speed for progress, noise for importance, agitation for strength." He turned to Takeshi fully, but silence is power. Takeshi felt something anchor deeper in his chest. "Master, how do I protect this silence when others try to shake it?" Ishida smiled softly, an old, knowing expression. "You protect silence not by avoiding noise, but by refusing to become noise." He tapped Takeshi's chest. "Isn't the absence of sound. It is the absence of reaction." The words landed inside Takeshi like a stone settling on the riverbed of his spirit. "A man who reacts," Ishida said, "is easy to control. But a man who observes, he becomes impossible to move." Takeshi watched the horizon. Something inside him shifted again. The world seemed sharper, lighter, smaller. "A master," he said, voice low. "I feel like everything is different." "It is," Ishida replied. "You crossed the boundary. You entered the silent level. You now see the world not with the eyes of fear, but with the eyes of presence." A long silence followed, deep as the valley itself. Then Ishida stepped back, expression turning solemn. "It is time." A chill rippled through Takeshi. "Time for what?" The master looked at him with eyes that held both pride and farewell. "For you to walk alone." The word struck Takeshi's chest like a quiet wound. "A master, I don't know if." Takeshi's breath trembled. He suddenly felt the weight of every moment he had shared with his master. The lessons, the failures, the storms, the silence. All of it had shaped him into something more than he had been. Fog curled around Ishida's ankles like drifting smoke. "Will I see you again?" Takeshi whispered. Ishida placed a hand on his shoulder, steady, warm grounding. When a warrior carries silence within him, he is never without his master. Takeshi's throat tightened. The fog thickened around Ishida's form, swallowing him inch by inch. "A master! A master!" Takeshi stepped forward, but Ishida's silhouette dissolved quietly into the mist, fading without struggle, without sound, without fear. Only the wind remained. Takeshi stood alone on the ridge, yet for the first time in his life, he did not feel abandoned. He felt anchored. He felt anchored. He felt ready. The storms inside him no longer frightened him. The noise of the world no longer threatened him. His past no longer chained him. He inhaled deeply, and the silent level answered from inside him, a calm, steady pulse of strength. The path home stretched before him, winding through fog and shadow. He stepped forward, and the world, despite all its chaos, noise, and fire, felt smaller than his silence. The ridge was quiet after Ishida disappeared into the mist. So quiet it felt as if the mountain itself had paused to witness Takeshi's stillness. But Takeshi did not crumble, did not panic, did not reach out into the empty fog for the man who had shaped him. Instead, he bowed. Once, long, deep, a bow of respect, gratitude, and acceptance. The silence around him didn't feel empty anymore. It felt inhabited, filled with every lesson Ishida had carved into his spirit. Presence, stillness, awareness, truth. He turned toward the descending path. The fog parted for him, as if recognizing a man who no longer struggled against the world, but moved with it. Takeshi walked. The forest below seemed different now, not quieter. His mind was simply louder before. He could feel the shift inside him like a second breath. Calm, steady, unshakable. The boy who arrived on this mountain had carried storms inside him. The man walking down carried silence, sharp as a blade, soft as a prayer. As he reached the lower ridge, the world greeted him with movement. Bamboo rustling, birds scattering, distant water echoing between stones. Takeshi paused, feeling each sound, not as distraction, but as information. He could tell which branch bent under the weight of a bird, which gust of wind carried moisture, which echo came from water, and which from earth. Presence was no longer something he practiced. It was something he had become. The trail narrowed into an ancient path carved by warriors before him. Sword marks lined the stones, footprints fossilized in mud long hardened, signs of men who had walked the same walk, learning to master themselves before mastering their world. Takeshi placed his hand on a weathered rock. The grooves were deep, intentional, disciplined. He could almost hear Ishida's voice. A warrior's markings are not proof of strength. They are proof of honesty, Takeshi continued. Soon the wind thickened with the scent of cedar, the ravine where Ishida had spoken his final teachings. The old cedar still stood, carved with the scars of generations. Takeshi approached it, touching one of the ancient cuts. He whispered, Master, I understand now. Not because Ishida was there, but because Takeshi no longer needed him to be. The silent level wasn't a technique, wasn't a trick, wasn't a moment. It was a state of being, a way of moving, a way of breathing, a way of seeing. A man aligned with himself no longer feared chaos. Chaos feared him. Takeshi left the ravine behind. The trail angled down sharply, revealing a vast view of the valley he had once struggled through and nearly broken in. How small it looked now. How loud it had once been. How silent it felt now. His younger self flashed in his memory. Angry, restless, eager to prove something he couldn't even name. A boy chasing noise because he feared the quiet would expose him. Takeshi smiled softly. He understood now. Silence was not weakness. Silence was not emptiness. Silence was not lack. Silence was mastery. As he descended, the world grew livelier. Sounds of village life faintly reaching him from afar. Children laughing, merchants shouting, metal striking metal in an old blacksmith shop, dogs barking in shadows. He could sense the tension, the frustration, the frantic energy of ordinary people who lived inside their storms, without knowing they had storms at all. Takeshi placed his palm on his chest. His heartbeat was slow, steady, grounded. Their world was noise. His world was stillness, not because he escaped chaos, but because he no longer reacted to it. The path leveled out. A wide river shimmered ahead, its surface trembling with sunlight. Takeshi approached it and knelt. He dipped his hands in the cold water. The reflection that looked back at him was familiar, yet completely changed. Not older, not harder, just deeper. His eyes carried the calm of the bamboo forest, the steadiness of the stone ridge, the honesty of the Shadowstone trial, the discipline of Musashi's lineage, and the silence Ishida had taught him to breathe. He stood. Across the river, the path led back to the world he left behind. The world of temptation, ego, conflict, and noise. A world where men shouted to be heard, argued to feel powerful, chased respect from others because they could not find respect within themselves. But Takeshi felt none of the pull he once did. Presence had rewritten him. He tightened his obi, straightened his posture, and stepped across the shallow part of the river. The water curled around his ankles, cold, refreshing, alive. Each step forward felt like a vow. A vow to walk with silence in his spirit. A vow to never again chase validation. Never let fear lead him, and the world roared. As he reached the opposite bank, the wind shifted behind him, a soft, warm breeze brushing his back. For a moment, just a moment, it felt like a familiar presence. Ishida. Takeshi didn't turn. He didn't need to, he whispered. Thank you for everything. The breeze carried the words away. Ahead, the valley opened alive with movement and life. Imperfect, loud, chaotic. But Takeshi walked into it with the calm of a mountain carved by centuries. His silence moved with him, invisible, unexplained, unshakable. Many passed, paused without knowing why. Children quieted as he walked by. Animals stilled in his presence. Even the wind softened around him. Not because he was imposing, not because he was fierce, but because a man who carries silence carries a power deeper than noise can ever understand. As Takeshi stepped onto the familiar road leading back to the village, he felt no rush. Presence has no urgency. He walked slow, deliberate, rooted, one breath, one step, one moment at a time. And as he moved forward, his path opened, not because the world made way for him, but because he no longer moved against himself. The silent level walked with him, in every breath, in every thought, in every step. And the loud world, with all its storms, conflicts, doubts, and noise, felt smaller than his silence. Takeshi didn't look back. He didn't need to. He carried the mountain within him now. He walked in the warrior he had become, walked within the warrior he had become, walked